Imagine a book that transcends generations, read, interpreted, and studied by billions of people over the centuries. A book that carries profound stories about life, faith, and morality. This is the Bible. But amidst its many pages of teachings and accounts, we also find stories as impressive as they are intriguing. Stories that defy the ordinary and make us question the very nature of destiny. Today we are going to delve into a lesser discussed yet no less fascinating aspect. The strangest and most mysterious deaths that occurred throughout this sacred narrative. Some of these deaths challenge our understanding, others are filled with symbolism, and many remain shrouded in mystery to this day. Get ready to discover how, within the vast biblical universe, some lives ended in ways that verge on the supernatural. These accounts make us reflect on the power of faith, destiny, and the incomprehensible divine plan. Sometimes, the Bible tells us stories that go beyond our understanding, stories that carry hidden yet profound messages. Ready to uncover these stories? Let's explore together the 7 strangest deaths in the Bible. The first strange death in the Bible is also the first murder recorded in human history. The death of Abel, the son of Adam and Eve. The tragedy unfolds at the dawn of humanity when sin was still a recent reality. Abel was a shepherd while his brother, Cain, was a farmer. Both brought offerings to the Lord. Abel offered the best of his sheep, Cain the fruit of the earth. However, God accepted Abel's offering and rejected Cain's. Jealousy and anger consumed Cain, and in an act of pure violence, he took his brother into the field and killed him. Abel's blood cried out from the ground for justice, and God did not let this death go unpunished. Cain was cursed, condemned to wander aimlessly, with the weight of guilt engraved upon his soul. What makes this death strange is the fact that from the very beginning, Abel's death was not just a murder. It symbolized the first break in brotherly bonds and the emergence of violence in the human heart. Furthermore, his death carries immense spiritual weight as it represents the first blood spilled on the earth, an earth that was still new and freshly created. Abel became a symbol of lost innocence and, at the same time, of divine justice. A death that was not merely physical but spiritual, marking the beginning of a long story of suffering and redemption in the biblical narrative. The next death that defies comprehension is that of Lot's wife. It occurs in a moment of pure terror and destruction. God had decided to destroy the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah due to their extreme wickedness. Before the divine punishment fell upon these cities, God sent 2 angels to save Lot and his family, instructing them to flee without looking back, for judgment was about to descend. Lot, his daughters, and his wife fled at dawn, as fire and brimstone rained down upon the cities. But something unexpected happened. Against God's clear instructions, Lot's wife, in a moment of curiosity, or perhaps regret, looked back. The instant she did so, she was turned into a pillar of salt, a motionless figure in the desert, an eternal warning to those who defy divine instructions. What makes this death so strange is the manner in which it happened. Rather than being a simple punishment, the transformation into salt is laden with symbolism. In antiquity, salt was often seen as something sacred, used for purification and preservation. However, here, salt is the symbol of disobedience and spiritual petrification. Lot's wife was condemned to remain eternally trapped between 2 worlds, the past she couldn't leave behind and the future she would never reach. A death that is not just a tragic end, but a symbolic transformation, doomed to exist in silence in the sands of time. Now we come to the story of Nadab and Abihu, the sons of Aaron, the high priest. These men were among the first priests of Israel, charged with performing sacrifices and rituals before God in the tabernacle. It was a position of enormous responsibility, and the instructions for worship were clear and strict, demanding absolute respect for the rules established by God. However, Nadab and Abihu made a fatal mistake. In a moment of presumption or carelessness, they offered what the Bible calls unauthorized fire before the Lord, a fire that had not been authorized by God. The scriptures do not detail exactly what they did wrong, but the result was immediate and terrible. Divine fire came out from the Lord and consumed them right there in front of everyone. This death is strange and shocking for several reasons. First, it underscores the holiness of worshiping God and the danger of profaning it, even by a seemingly minor error. The punishment was swift and final, highlighting the gravity of disobedience in a sacred context. But beyond that, the nature of this unauthorized fire remains a mystery to this day. What exactly did Nadab and Abihu do to deserve such an end? Was it a failure to follow instructions? Or was it an act of spiritual arrogance? Whatever the explanation, the death of these 2 priests serves as a powerful reminder of the need for respect and reverence before sacred things. The fire that was supposed to purify and sanctify became the instrument of their destruction. an abrupt and severe end, echoing through time as a warning that obedience to divine commands is not merely a matter of choice but of life and death. The next death on our list is that of Jezebel, a queen whose life and tragic end are remembered as one of the most vivid examples of divine judgment in the Bible. Jezebel was the wife of King Ahab of Israel and is known for being a ruthless and manipulative woman who persecuted the prophets of God and encouraged the worship of Baal, a pagan god. Her name became synonymous with evil, especially due to how she used her power to destroy those who opposed her. But it was Jezebel's final fate that sealed her place as one of the most notorious characters in the Bible. After Ahab was killed, Jezebel continued to exert her influence, but the prophet Elijah had already prophesied her death in a terrible way. When Jehu, the new king chosen by God to purge Israel of the evil in its royal house, arrived at the palace, Jezebel defiantly faced him, adorning herself as if she were untouchable. However, at Jehu's command, her servants threw her out of the palace window. Jezebel's body fell to the ground and was left there, but her fate was far from ordinary. When Jehu ordered her to be buried, his servants found only her bones. Dogs had devoured her flesh, exactly as Elijah had prophesied. Jezebel's death was brutal and full of symbolism. A powerful queen, destroyed in such a grotesque and humiliating manner, as if it were divine punishment for her wickedness. What makes this death particularly strange is the contrast between the power Jezebel wielded and the degrading manner of her end. The woman who ruled with an iron hand and spread terror was reduced to nothing more than remains devoured by dogs. Her death was more than just a physical end. It was the total annihilation of her legacy and a severe warning against the abuse of power and idolatry. A judgment as brutal as it was inevitable, reverberating as a lesson through the pages of biblical history. Now we come to the story of Uzzah, a man whose death in many ways is as abrupt as it is inexplicable. The episode occurs during a moment of great celebration in Israel. The Ark of the Covenant, the most sacred symbol of God's presence among the people, was being transported back to Jerusalem on a cart pulled by oxen. David and all the Israelites were celebrating with joy, dancing and playing instruments. The atmosphere was one of pure jubilation. However, in the midst of the procession, something unexpected happened. The cart carrying the ark stumbled, and the ark seemed about to fall. At that moment, Uzzah, who was walking beside the cart, instinctively reached out to prevent the ark from falling. A gesture that, at first glance, seemed logical and even reverent. But as soon as Uzzah touched the ark, he was struck down by God's wrath and fell dead on the spot. Uzzah's death is one of the most mysterious in the Bible. It raises difficult questions about divine justice and the rules governing contact with sacred objects. The Ark of the Covenant was so holy that no one but the designated priests could touch it. Even though Uzzah's intention seemed good, his action was seen as a violation of divine laws. This strange death prompts deep reflection on the sanctity and respect that God demands for his instructions. Uzzah, in his attempt to protect the ark, violated one of the most sacred rules and thus paid with his life. What could have been seen as a simple human error transforms into a powerful warning about the consequences of dealing with the sacred carelessly. A sudden death that left everyone around in silence, a constant reminder that divine presence is something to be treated with utmost respect and reverence. Now we move to the New Testament, where we find the death of King Herod Agrippa, one of the most powerful figures of the time. Herod was known for his brutality and his relentless desire to please both the people and Roman leaders. He had persecuted the early Christians and, at the height of his power, had ordered the execution of James the Apostle and imprisoned Peter with the intention of killing him as well. But what led to his death was something completely different. On a day of great celebration, Herod donned his royal robes and, before a crowd, delivered a powerful speech. The people, enthralled by his eloquence and majestic appearance, began to shout, "This is the voice of a god, not of a man." Instead of rejecting this adulation and giving glory to God, Herod accepted the praise as if he were indeed divine. It was at that moment that God's judgment fell upon him. The biblical account tells us that an angel of the Lord struck him immediately because he did not give glory to God. He was consumed by worms and died in a terrible and painful manner. His end was not just a physical death but a direct punishment for his pride and blasphemy in assuming the role of God. Herod's death is strange not only because of the grotesque and repulsive manner in which it happened but because of its symbolism. Herod, who had ruled with an iron hand and placed himself as a figure of supreme authority, was reduced to nothing, devoured from within by creatures representing the degradation and fragility of human flesh. His end was a clear warning about the consequences of arrogance and self-idolatry, a fall from power to dust, a reminder that no one, not even the most powerful, is beyond the reach of divine judgment. And so, We come to the end of these haunting and fascinating stories about the strangest deaths in the Bible. Each of them, from Abel to Herod, brings not only a physical death but a profound spiritual lesson. These events are not mere fatalities, they are manifestations of divine power, often mysterious and incomprehensible to the human mind. These deaths show us something essential about the biblical view of life and destiny. The path of obedience and reverence is vital, while disobedience, arrogance, and irreverence can lead to unexpected and even frightening consequences. The deaths that seem so strange to us at their core remind us that the divine acts in ways that are often beyond our understanding. And that is where the mystery lies. If there is anything these deaths teach us, it is that the relationship between humans and the sacred is delicate and full of responsibility. The Bible, with its wealth of stories, warns us that the invisible is always present and that the divine is never harmless. It requires respect, attention, and above all, humility. These deaths, as strange as they may be, are eternal lessons. Lessons of justice, faith, and the immense power that governs not only life but also death. As we reflect on them, we are invited to look beyond the strange and see the meaning that echoes throughout sacred history, that there is always something greater at play, something that transcends what we see and understand. And perhaps, in the end, that is the true lesson of these mysterious deaths.